Hey there. So for the tens, if not hundreds of Studio HFL fans, I'd like to say hello, welcome back. I would like to let you know that I've got some more interviews finally coming out. In 2017, I started these interviews. First 50 or so were audio only. And then, of course, thanks to COVID and Zoom, I was able to get video for most of the rest of these interviews. And then life went back to somewhat normal and I stopped editing, and it's been bugging me for some time. So finally, the pendulum has swung the other direction, and here I am finally editing and getting these interviews out. Now, early on, I had sponsors, and I was ever so grateful to have those sponsors. I wouldn't have been able to have quite the success for the podcast that I did without them. Of course, that includes, in no particular order, Eastman Music Company and S.E. Shires, Chop Saver, thank you, Dan Gosling, Austin Custom Brass, Hammond Design, Pickett, Blackburn, and Messina Covers. And I think I'm leaving somebody else out of there. I think that's it. Anyways, and also to some Patreon subscribers. Couldn't have done it without you guys either, so thank you ever so much. Oh, yeah. If during the interview you are so moved to like and subscribe, then please do. Don't worry, this is my only ask. You won't see or hear about that again. So, now without further ado, on with the interview. How are you this morning?
I'm good. Since the time change, the dog wakes up an hour later, which means I don't have to take him out at the ridiculous hour I do in the winter. How are you, Larry?
I'm doing all right. No dogs to get up and take out this morning, but I was still up early. I still haven't adjusted to the time change. I don't know that I ever will. You lived here in Indy for a long time. You remember there was a long stretch where we didn't have daylight saving time.
Oh, that's true.
I liked that.
Where did you grow?
In Kentucky. Well, wait, I got to back up. See, that's a loaded question because you're assuming that I've actually grown up.
Well, now that I think about it, you're right.
So, yeah, I'm going to let you know. Right before I called you, I Googled your name, and your obituary was the first thing that popped up.
Ah,
So I didn't know that if you knew you were already dead.
well, I'm actually the third, and so my father passed away in Florida, and my grandfather passed away in Indianapolis.
So
They have the same name.
Oh, I didn't realize that. You're Harry. Is it Harry or Harold?
Harry.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were the third. How about that?
Yeah. So I'm still.
Yes, of course, I know that. Yeah. So, I was kind of looking to see what had happened since you retired from UIndy. And how many years ago was that?
Probably 7.
Has it really been that long?
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Yeah. But looking to see what you had done. And of course, you haven't stopped playing. It looks like you're in the Sarasota area. There's, what's this, a Blue Heron group? Is that your group?
Yeah, the Blue Heron Sextet or sort of group of mine. Instrumentation is tenor saxophone and 2 trombone and rhythm section.
Mm-hmm.
And I've written, about 90 charts for the group.
Are you talking about composing or arranging?
Both. The music scene, owing to the coronavirus, just came to a screeching halt last year.
Mm-hmm.
And my sextet, fortunately, has a nice place to rehearse that allows us to rehearse there. So we get to play together once a week.
Nice.
And if we wind up with a gig sometime, why, that'd be nice. And if not, we're still having a lot of fun just playing every week.
Is it pretty much the same group, pretty steady? Yeah.
Yeah, it never changes.
Yeah. So, so you're still playing, but what about teaching? Are you doing any private lessons or anything like that?
No, no, I'm not. I had one student who I really enjoy. Yeah. Then she was an adult, and the virus hit. She lost all of her work. She worked quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and decided to pursue another way of making money out of music.
Mm-hmm.
So that was it for teaching. I miss teaching.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, you were at UIndy for, I'm trying to look to see how long this was, since 1985, right? Is that?
Yeah, I was an adjunct in '85.
And what did you start teaching when you got there?
Just saxophone, really. It was while I was still working on the road. So there were some times when I'd get off the plane Monday morning and go straight to UIndy. Woe be it the students in those circumstances who hadn't practiced that week. We would get not much sleep, and then get a little upset when students couldn't do something I asked them to do.
Well, I think I experienced maybe not your full wrath, but I remember as a student of yours in jazz combo, not learning my scales, my blues scales or my patterns, and yeah, I mean, you never really let loose on me, but I knew I should have done a little more work on that.
Well, that was really when I was on the road, was the time when it took me a little time to figure out it wasn't about whether I had a good night's sleep or not. And I think I mellowed as time went on.
Yeah. So you were just teaching saxophone when you started. Was there any kind of jazz program there? Any jazz curriculum at all?
There was a jazz ensemble, which required some community people to sit in and help out, and that was directed by Jim Edit.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. When Jim decided to quit doing that, he recommended me for the job.
Mm-hmm.
So I think previously I don't remember that year. I was already teaching saxophone when he recommended me to run the big band, and it was a small big band some semesters.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thinking about even access to repertoire. Jim had a huge library himself, didn't he?
He did, and towards the end of his life, he turned his library over to me at the school.
Good grief!
So,
How many charts did you? What was in there?
yeah, you're asking me to remember something from 20 years ago.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I mean, you don't need specific numbers, but I mean, I knew it had to be huge because he was doing a lot of work.
Yeah, I think probably in the neighborhood of 300 to 400.
Wow. So where is that library now? Is that still at UIndy?
Yeah, he actually donated it to the school.
Mm-hmm.
Since I left, physical where offices are and libraries are in the music department, I'm not sure at all where it is.
Right.
It's somewhere.
So, between 1985, starting just as teaching adjunct, and then when you retired 7 or so years ago to having created a really successful jazz program and a jazz week, jazz faculty. Do you also have a faculty artist series just for jazz, or were you just wrapped into?
Yeah, there was a jazz concert series.
Mm-hmm. That was quite an evolution. I mean, that took a lot of work to develop that.
Well, I was lucky, Larry. Jamey Aebersold was helpful financially
Mm-hmm.
to allow me to get a couple of my ideas into motion, and are really happy with what we did with his help. We had a lot of New York jazz players come in for concerts and clinics and so forth. And I should have compiled a list before you called, because I'm not going to remember everybody that was there. But we probably had 20 concerts. One in particular was one of a kind. We had I'm gonna not remember all these names. I bet we had a concert called the United Trombone Ensemble, something like that, and it was Slide Hampton and Curtis Fuller, and here we go.
Well, I can look that up. I can probably it's archived, I bet, somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the only time that those four trombone players played together. It was quite a good concert, and I had a lot of fun. I just made a list of people I would like to hear, and then I started calling them.
Yeah.
And see if they were free and could come out.
Well, and these are probably connections from your time on the road with the OJs, yes?
Well, I'd run into several of those guys.
Yeah. Well, so I just mentioned the OJs. Let's back up there for just a second. It looks like you were on the road with them for about a dozen years or so.
23.
Or 20. Sorry, I didn't do my math very well. Yeah, 23. Holy cow.
Yeah, I started with them in January 1976, and my last gig was towards the end of 1998.
Now, did you leave the group, or did they disband at that point?
They had not disbanded. Actually, they've been together now more than 50 years. I left the group because, like most very popular groups, as they mature, they're probably not going to continue to have it or work as much as they have in the past.
Yeah.
And I could see that I wouldn't be able to support myself if I done that gig. And luckily, Joe and Don hired me as a halftime professor. I had started a class called Intro to Jazz for non-musicians. Once I was there, I continued to try and instigate new things to keep myself afloat. Turns out it turned into a jazz program, I'm very grateful for the opportunity I had to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny. I still think UIndy is kind of a hidden gem in Indianapolis. Everybody knows where Butler is, but did you ever feel like that? Like UIndy was kind of out of everybody's line of sight? Maybe that's just my perspective.
Yeah, it was very difficult to stay in contact with the public school music teacher on the north side of Indianapolis. Occasionally wander up to North Central or Lawrence or other schools on the north side and make them aware I existed down at UIndy. But the truth be known, I think most schools size of UIndy attract a majority of their students from their own zip code. And we recruited pretty much south of UIndy.
Yeah, we've had a lot of Franklin, Whiteland, Beech Grove, Greenwood. Yeah. And a lot of good students from those schools too. Yeah.
Well, we did. When I think back to the whole time I was there were just several students that I really enjoyed teaching them. You don't have to always be smart, but you have to work. And
that's going to be the highlight quote from this interview. That's it right there. Well, talk a little bit more about teaching. You say you miss it. What exactly did you miss about it?
Well, I think I was fortunate as a younger musician to have some teachers from whom I learned things about teaching. directly, but just from observing what happened in my lessons with them.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in the band at West Point, it allowed me to go down to New York City and study with the saxophone clarinet teacher at Juilliard, a gentleman named Joe Allard. That's a really long story, but Joe had many fine students.
Mm-hmm.
The way he taught, though, was very, it was just unique. He told me one time that an instrument was about trying to get a student to experience a feeling. That's sometimes it's difficult to accomplish, but just in general,
Mm-hmm.
things I learned about teaching from him.
So that's how he taught you, but you also observed him teaching others that way. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm pretty woodwind player name in New York. WN Eddie Daniel
Oh.
comes to mind, and Dave Tafani. And as I got to know some of those people, our experiences that we all had, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
After I came back out of the Army, I came back to Indianapolis. I was doing a little work with Motown, but there was a point where I took a little vacation. I didn't touch the horn for about 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got back, I was having some trouble trying to get a certain thing that we used to do with Joe to get that together.
Mm-hmm.
And I called Joe, and it was summertime, and I explained to him what problem I was having. He said, well, I can talk to you about that on the phone. Why don't you just come up and see me? And come up and see me meant go to his summer house in New Hampshire. And so I did. I went up. He and his wife were there. And at that particular time I went there, Harvey Patel, who's a kind of nationally known classical saxophone teacher,
Mm-hmm.
was also there, she and Joe about something. So, and it took Joe about a 1 hour conversation with me, and I was ready to roll again.
That's it. That's all it took.
But not many teachers I know would say, well, come to my summer home, I'm on vacation, and fed me and gave me a place to stay.
Yeah.
Joe was something.
Well, you've also had a remarkable experience with David Baker.
Well, certainly knew David a long time. First took lessons with him when he was living in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Before he came to IU. And yeah, over the years, I was in professional sextet for him. And he was an amazing man.
Mm-hmm. What when you studied with him, was that formally at IU?
No, that was just private lessons. I would drive. I think I started that in my sophomore year at IU. I drove up to his house on the west side of Indianapolis once a week for a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always somebody was coming out the door while I was going in.
Mm-hmm.
I think he taught quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know I'm kind of bopping all over the place here, but Indy is home for you, right? You're a Lawrence graduate?
Yeah, I grew up in Lawrence. Lawrence North didn't exist. It was just Lawrence Central. And Larry Hall was, I think, 2 years behind me.
The LA studio guy, yeah.
Larry and I spent time at young people. I happened to live not very far from him. And I talked to Larry last month, and we were remembering there was a time when I took my alto saxophone over to his house. We listened to Dave Brubeck recording of Take 5 in his living room and tried to figure out the notes and how to play the song. But Larry was a good person to be around.
I contacted him a couple of years ago. I found out from somebody that he was from here in Indy, and I was trying to get an interview with him, but he wasn't too keen on the idea of that. He's like, well, I don't really have anything to say about that. But I tried to convince him that, all of his experience out in LA and Hollywood, people would be interested in that. So I might still keep working on him to see if he'll give me an interview.
Yeah, I think one needs to have a high regard for any musician who's not in a symphony, who can support themselves through their lifetime being involved in music.
Mm-hmm.
And just doing that is it's a result of a lot of work and a lot of love of what you do.
Yeah. Well, you were doing that, right? I mean, you're talking about, you supported yourself while you were playing with the OJs, but even when you realized that the OJs weren't going to be able to support you, you were trying to build up your portfolio at UIndy, right? You're trying to still cobble things together to make it a complete career.
Yeah, I don't know about a complete career. I was trying to keep the rent paid.
Well, okay, so we'll call it keep paying the rent. You were paying the rent, but you were doing it, right? I mean, you weren't just sitting around waiting for something to happen. You were making things happen, right?
Well, I guess my understanding of the way the world works is that if you don't make it happen, it probably isn't going to.
Well, and that's kind of the difference between those that make it and those that don't. Those that just sit around and wait for, I was going to say wait for the phone to ring, but these days you wait for the email, wait for the text, but that just doesn't. That's never cut it, right? I mean, you've got to go after things if you want to get something done.
Well, I think that's true.
Yeah.
Hearing that, I think I really expended a lot of energy and took advantage of the time that I was at the military academy.
Mm-hmm.
That allowed me to take lessons with Joe, which the Army paid for.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked at a hotel in the Catskill Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evening
Mm-hmm.
for about 2 years and learned a lot from that experience. And then, of course, being from Indiana, had the opportunity to not just hear records or CDs of players, but go to clubs. And you just can't, you don't get the full impact of what a jazz musician is doing unless you're actually sitting at a table in front of the band, watching and hearing them do.
Mm-hmm.
So that was worth a lot.
Well, and now, of course, UIndy has that opportunity. I mean, they provide that, right? That has become a place because of your jazz concerts, Jazz Week, right? That was a place where people could come and experience some really great jazz live.
Yeah, well, you have to do that.
Yeah.
You can't teach in a vacuum.
Yeah. So, just curious, was that your time in the West Point band? Was that a 4-year enlistment?
I believe it was 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
That band is one of 3 special leaders in the Army. The other 2 are in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And you audition for the band, and then if you're accepted, you have to go through basic training,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go to West Point, and you're guaranteed that will be your posting. And if you're there for a month and you haven't killed anybody, you get promoted to sergeant.
That's the criteria for promotion. Don't kill anybody. Yeah. I'm curious. Of course, Marvin Perry. You remember Chappie? Was
Sure.
in that band. You guys weren't there at the same time, were you?
No, not at all.
Okay. I'm trying to think. I think he's probably a bit older than you. Um, well, when you were at West Point, were you playing just saxophone, or were you playing other woodwinds?
No, I was just playing saxophone. I think the last 6 months I was there, I took some clarinet lessons with
Mhm.
Joe had been in the Bell Telephone Hour Orchestra
Mhm.
under Toscanini,
Mhm.
and was also known to the jazz player to go down to the Village Vanguard to hear Coltrane's group, and Coltrane would always recognize him. So he was familiar with
Yeah.
a lot of what was going on.
Um, Let me jump back ahead to Aebersold and that connection. How did you? Because not only some financial support that you had mentioned, but there's a saxophone collection of his at UIndy. How did your association with Jamey start?
Well, let me just make sure about one there. The saxophone collection that is at UIndy came from Mr. Cohen and his wife, who was a saxophone collector.
Yeah.
Jamey, I met, I think, when I was more of a junior. He came up to IU once in a while to speak with David Baker. That's when I met him. And then over the course of a year, I'm not sure that we ever played music together, but I do recall a concert that he was hired to play with some high school band. Something came up and he couldn't do it, and he called me to go sub for him. He was a stick. So I don't know exactly. I mean, it's not like we spent tons of time together.
Right.
Anyway, I was grateful that he called me in that situation.
Yeah.
And he used to have jam sessions in his basement. And I think I went to a couple of those. And then he was helpful with one of my former students who needed some financial help to go to Holland,
Mm-hmm.
the North Sea Jazz Festival, and Jamey helped with that. And you know that student, Sophie.
Oh, no kidding.
He's he's an amazing man. He said that he makes a lot of money so that he can give it away.
That is pretty fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. There are legends like that, and of course we lost. I think a big legend here recently. Sammy Nestico passed away, but it seemed like I don't know much about him. Did you ever encounter Sammy?
No, most of the time now I was away from Indianapolis. I was in the R&B world.
Mm-hmm.
And part of my job with the OJ was hiring 2 trumpets and a trombone for every gig in the United States.
Wow.
So, really, I just once again I made a list of brass players I'd like to play with, and when we were going to be where they were, I would call and say, "For what I have to pay you, you want to do this gig?" And as the consequence of that, this is second gig. I hired Mick Gillette. Do you know that man?
I do.
Wayne Bergeron,
Yeah, I think he's done some things.
Ray Brown, trumpet player from LA.
Yeah.
My New York guys that I would call Chris Bodie, Kent Smith, Mike Davis on trombone.
I'm looking at a Mike Davis CD right now. I've gotten some of his books through was it Hipbone? I think.
Yeah, Hibbo music.
Yeah, really, really good stuff. Yeah.
He's a pretty amazing guy.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to continue that list
Yeah,
just a
please.
minute because it gets to a story.
Sure.
Tony Marcion in Philadelphia is a contractor, lead trumpet player.
Uh-huh.
His son, whose first name I don't recall right now, is the lead trumpet player on the Vanguard Orchestra. Long time ago. Do you know the name Frank Brown?
I don't.
He was a tremendous lead trumpet player in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And played with him. And I have on my list a name which the story attached to. When I had a gig in Buffalo, I would customarily, on trombone, call a young woman named Lon Gromley. And Lon Gromley, besides being a good trombone player, was a longtime living companion of Don Harry.
Okay.
And one time we had a gig there, and Lon already had accepted something, couldn't do the gig I had. And I actually talked Don into playing trombone with the OJs for a night. And I didn't care how he played. I just thought he'd have fun doing the gig, which was true. I can't say anything bad about Don. The times that I played in Buffalo, a majority of the time, wind up at Don and Lon's house, hanging out during the day. But I'm the only one in the world who's ever played a gig with Don Harry playing trombone.
Is that on your resume?
I'm sure it's not on.
Yeah. It's I don't have quite the same experience as far as sharing the stage with people like that. But what has been fun in doing these interviews is getting an opportunity to interview jazz players. And, I'm going to throw some names out. I don't know if Bria Schoenberg, she's a young trumpet player. She's terrific. Ingrid Jensen, another trumpet player. And that's, I'm trying to think. And then there's a guy I interviewed. He's actually a Louis Armstrong expert. He's Ricky Riccardi is his name. And I have learned more in my interviews with Ricky about Louis Armstrong and jazz. And actually also talking to Doc. In fact, I'm talking to Doc again tonight about Louis Armstrong. And it was never intended to be a history of that. But, I'm getting my own, the point is I'm getting my own personal education about Louis Armstrong just because, I'm talking to these guys. And it's fascinating to me.
Well, I have to bring up, since you brought up the name Louis Armstrong, that the West Point concert band went down to play at a concert at a VA hospital in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And the guest speaker or guest art was Louis Armstrong. And the quality of this we won't comment on, but he quickly formed a Dixieland combo. He didn't play trumpet. It's in 1971, the last year of his life.
Oh, yeah.
But he sang Hello, Dolly, and I stood right next to him and played Dixieland really bad. But he was a joy to be around.
Well, that's what I've heard. It was just kind of oozed out of him, right? That joyous attitude. So you actually got to share the stage with Louis Armstrong. That's impressive.
Well, not something I would admit to sometime.
Well, for a trumpet player who holds him in high esteem, that I look at that as a pretty special thing. So.
Well, he was an incredible trumpet player. That's all there is to it.
Well, okay. So, the way Doc talks about him is that he...
I'm sorry, Larry. You keep saying Doc?
Doc Severinsen.
Oh, okay. I can keep up.
Yeah. But the way he refers to him is, Doc says Louis changed the course of music in the 20th century. And I'm curious, from your perspective, who were, not necessarily Louis Armstrong, but who were the people that you saw were truly influential in the way that jazz evolved?
Well, there aren't too many. Mile, I saw when I was in New York. I saw it 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those times that I saw him, he played some amazing music on trumpet.
Mm-hmm.
And the other times I saw him, I saw him.
Yeah.
Personally, I listened a lot to Cannonball and Coltrane.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as people who really changed the music, I think Herbie Hancock's got to be on somebody's list.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of sort of almost top level people, but not like Charlie Parker and Coleman Hawkins
Mm-hmm.
and Louis. That level of people, there are only 4 or 5 that I would put on that list.
Mm-hmm.
But there are certainly a lot of other. I took some lessons with Lee Kona while I was in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and that was very interesting. It didn't last real long, but there's a funny story. I went to see him at a club while I was studying with him. I think it was the top of the gate, and he saw that I was there. When they took a break, he came over to where I was sitting and said, did you bring any reeds with you? And I thought that kind of sums up his personality. I don't know, if I had a gig at the Village Gate, I'd probably a week ahead of time would have 3 good reeds ready to go.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Well, since retirement, I know you're in Florida. Is aside from music and just enjoying retirement, are you filling it with golf or I don't know what else?
Well, last year, a new friend of mine from down here in Florida, when the virus struck, we were pretty much, everybody was stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And he and I took off a bunch of clarinet solos and published a book. One with that in February of last year.
Wow.
Jazz styles and analysis for the clarinet. Jamey sells it. Mm-hmm. There's another trumpet player down here you may know, Randy Sankey.
I don't know that name.
Well, a lot of people in this country don't know him, but he's from Chicago. He was in David's jazz band at the Freshman my last year when I was in David's jazz band. And he spent a lot of time working for George Wein, doing concerts in Europe. He's been on, I think he has about 20 albums out as a leader and 20 or 30 albums out as a sideman.
Wow.
The list of people he's played with, everybody who's played jazz. So he retired and he still plays, but he moved to Venice, which isn't far from where I am. Mm-hmm. So I talked to him about transcribing some of his solos, possibly putting the book out. And that's an ongoing project for me, transcribing.
Yeah.
Like I say, I've written about 90 charts for my group. Mm-hmm. I try to stay busy. Yeah, I play golf once a week. And actually, lately, my game has been improving. That's nice.
Yeah. Talking about recordings, I'm thinking there's got to be, because what I want to do with this interview is be able to cut in, maybe some of the stuff from the OJs, but what other things would you recommend? Are there, I'm sure there are archival recordings at UIndy that I could get.
Oh, geez.
But are there other things outside of UIndy that you would steer me towards? Maybe.
In general, all of the. Are you talking about me or people who have played there?
You, specifically.
Well, I'm sort of with Claude on that. Like, okay. I don't much care for hearing anything I played. I'm happy with some of the stuff I played. I just don't. I don't play that way now.
Oh, I see. All right.
One of my favorite thing I think I played well was a tune called Algeria, which is on Downtown Blues, I think is the name of the Bono and Ali
Mm-hmm.
big band.
Okay. Well, I'll find some stuff there, and you know what? I'll reach out to some of those guys too, Ali, and see if he's got some things that he'd like to share with that too. But yeah.
Well, there are a couple other things that you might be interested in that are on the CD I put out. One is an orchestral arrangement that Frank Glover did
Mm-hmm.
for me on a tune called I'll Never Stop Loving You. And on that same CD, incidentally, I could probably send you this stuff electronically
Oh, okay, that'd be great.
if I can figure out how to do it. I also on that CD are two other tunes of interest. One is Take the A Train, played by me and Kevin Johnson on drums. Just he and I.
Mhm.
And Without a Song, no drums, with Claude and Joe Deal on bass.
I'm just trying to think. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this, I didn't know if I told you that WR actually has turned my interviews into a radio show.
Oh, that's cool. Good for you.
Well, thank you. But of course, along with all these interviews that I've done from international people, I'm thinking, well, there's an awful lot of talent here in Indy that I need to make sure I highlight, represent, and of course, trying to include. I even started with Jack Everly with of course with the ISO, but people like yourself. And Jen Sukala. I don't know if you remember Jen. She's a trumpet player, but she had been teaching some intro to jazz there recently. But the whole idea is to feature as many people from Indy, of course, as possible. And I'm thinking WICR probably has access to all that material. And in fact, you did a jazz program for, oh my goodness, how long were you on WICR?
No, 10 or 12 years.
Yeah. Well, I've only had two shows to this point. It's not even close, but it's an interesting thing to have to put together. Mine is not live. I didn't know if yours was live, but interesting to have to put together, with certain time restrictions.
Sure.
But well, well, Harry, this has been fun.
Thank you for wanting to include me in it.
Yeah. No, I couldn't imagine you not being a part of it. So yeah, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Okay, Larry.
So, well, hey, have a great week, and thanks again for the time this morning.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, see you, Harry. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.